So on April 4, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, and this was, in a year full of traumatic events, maybe the most traumatic event of the year. It's to have this sort of the foremost civil rights leader in the country shot down. And the response to it among African Americans was anger and in many cases violence. Riots across American cities. Washington, D.C., for example, had some of the worst riots. Chicago had very bad riots too. But one place that was not affected was Indianapolis, Indiana. And one of the reasons for that was because Robert Kennedy happened to be in Indianapolis that evening, campaigning for the Democratic primary in Indiana, which was the beginning of May. Kennedy was scheduled to speak in an African-American community in Indianapolis that night. He was told by the police he probably shouldn't go, it wasn't safe. His wife didn't want him to go, and Kennedy insisted. He said, "I have to go." He said that if anybody should be there, it should be me. And this was sort of a reflection of Kennedy's own very close relationship with the African-American community and with minority communities in general, Native Americans, Mexican Americans. He had a real following in minority communities. So Kennedy goes to this event. He actually is the person who informs most of the audience what had happened. They didn't know what had happened. It only had occurred a few hours earlier. And he gives this extraordinary speech that was extraordinary and memorable in one way because he, for the first time since the assassination of his brother, he talked about that event. He talked about his brother being shot. And he said that he understood the anger that a lot of black people felt about what had happened because King had been shot by a white man. He said, but my brother was shot by a white man also. And he uses an opportunity to talk about the need for reconciliation and the need for whites and blacks to come together. And when he was finished, the crowd dispersed quietly, and there were no riots, no disturbances in Indianapolis that evening, and one of the few cities that didn't have any kind of disturbances like that. So it's one of his most famous speeches, but also one of these moments where you sort of realize what a great leader he was and could have been.